Hello, everyone, and welcome to the October Model Aquatic Health Code Network webinar titled Make Your Voice Heard, Understanding the Process to Help Update the MAHC feature. Feature presenter Doug Sackett from our Oh, I'm sorry. I think my audio got cut. So Doug Sackett is joining us as our feature guest speaker. Before we get started, just want to go through a few logistical announcements here. Due to a number of attendees of this webinar, all participants are muted. You're free to participate in the discussion and ask questions via our chat box or our Q&A box here on our feature menus. This webinar is being recorded and we will distribute the link to all the participants. And you can also view this webinar and all previous recorded webinars in the Nature MAHC Network webpage. So with that, I'm gonna hand it over to Joe Lako of the Center of Disease Prevention and Control for some updates.
Hi, everybody. This is Joe Lako from the National Center for Environmental Health at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. I wanted to solicit your help and take this opportunity while we have our target audience online here and ask if there's any folks out there that are familiar with and have downloaded and use the app, the MAHC Inspector app that we developed a year or two ago with our partner Communicate Health. It's an app that's available for the iPad. It's available in the App Store, and it's called Aquatic Inspector. We're really interested in getting some feedback from actual users and folks that are familiar with the app and are familiar with its features and functions. And we'd like to communicate directly with Communicate Health and email Marjorie and let her know that you're available to be contacted, and they could ask you a few questions about your experience with the app. So I appreciate it if anyone out there's an Aquatic Inspector user can reach out to Marjorie. Daisy, you're going to introduce Doug here?
Yes. Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry I was on mute. So we're now going to move on to our future presentation. And today we're joined here by Doug Sackett. He's the Technical Director for the Council for the Model Aquatic Health Code, serving as the subject matter expert on all aspects of the MAHC. He drives the CMAHC's research agenda in community work, provides interpretations of the MAHC code language for public health experts and members of the aquatic industry, invests and approves product certification under the CMAHC certification program. Doug built a strong record of aquatics leadership, working for the New York State Department of Health for 38 years and retired as the Assistant Director in the Bureau of Community Environmental Health and Food Protection in April 2013. Doug was the Director and Steering Committee member of CDC project to develop the National Model Aquatic Health Code from its inception in 2007 until MAHC's first edition launched in August 2014. Doug was instrumental in setting up the CMAHC as the Vice President and Treasurer of the interim CMAHC Board of Directors, and he currently resides in New York State. With that, Doug, I welcome and thank you for joining us in today's webinar. I'm going to pass it over to you now so you can start your presentation.
Okay, thanks, Daisy. Okay, hopefully everybody's seeing the introduction screen for the today's presentation. What we're going to talk today about an overview of the change request process, a bit about change requests themselves, the technical review committee, technical support committees, vote on the code conference, voting, the 2014 MAC 4th or 2021 MAC 4th edition, and then an overview of the timeline to get us there. So there's basically this flow diagram is what we're going to be talking about today. We've got the change request. We've got the MAC on the far right. To get to the MAC and the updated edition, we start with input in the form of change requests through various avenues to get into the change request. We've got the technical review, technical support committees, and you can see all this, all the details as this flow diagram progresses. And what I'm going to do is give some information on each one of these phases. So there's hopefully a good understanding for those that want to participate in submitting change requests or participate and be engaged in the entire process to update the MAC. So the change requests, who can submit a change request? Certainly CMAC members can, but the key point is you do not need to be a member to submit a change request. The general public can, anybody can. You saw on that flow diagram that we had different committees. So CMAC ad hoc committees can also submit change requests. And right now we've got 4 ad hoc committees that are in the process. The cyanuric acid one has actually concluded their work, but we expect change requests to be submitted based on the work and the publishing of paper that captures the results of their work. So we expect change requests to come from them. Our indoor aquatic facility ventilation design air quality ad hoc committee will be submitting change requests. Our spray ground ad hoc committee is in the process of working now, but we do anticipate change requests submitted from them. And we've got a newly formed, relatively new formed surf pool ad hoc committee that hopefully will have some change requests going in to start capturing more details on surf pools in the MAC. We also have standing committees, 2 standing committees, our Annex Revision and Update Committee and the MAC and International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, our Consistency Standing Committee, and we expect that there may be change requests coming in from those committees also. Change requests, how do you go about submitting them? It's an electronic form, and it's only available on the CMAC website. I've included the link, so when you access this presentation from NACCHO's website in the future, you should have all this information. One thing that we ask, though, is before submitting a change request to review the MAC scope, principles, and style guidance. That is also available. It's a link to the CDC's website. You can access and link from the CMAC website. And I'm going to get into some details there because that's important. In the past, we've had problems with going through some of the change requests because they didn't follow scope or principle. Well, we didn't include scope before, and from past experience, we learned that we've got to detail scope up front, and then not following principle and style guidance has created problems, and so we wanted to highlight that. So we did include a new issue on scope in the CDC website on what the MAC does and does not cover, because there's some things that certainly you can make an argument without clearly make an argument that they're health and safety related as at an aquatic facility, but does everything that's health and safety related belong in the MAC, which is basically a pool aquatic venue code? So what we wanted to kind of detail a little bit, give us a starting point, is the scope of the MAC. It covers aspects of public aquatic facilities or venues, and it relating to the design, operation, and policies that can impact health and safety of the users and occupants. And that impact can be a result of the pool design, water quality, air quality, operations, and management issues. It's not intended to replace existing codes or standards that cover other aspects where those other standards otherwise apply, like our National Electrical Code. There's a whole section in NEC, National Electrical Code, dealing with aquatic swimming pools We're not intending to replace any of that with a MAC. What we do if there's other codes that are silent on certain aspects of the MAC that are felt to be very important, we may include that as an addition, but it's not intended to replace already existing other standards. And it's also not intended to impinge on regulatory authority of other government jurisdictions that regulate or inspect certain aspects or parts where existing standards are otherwise applicable. One of the key items that comes up is at our water parks, when we get the amusement ride, water slides, and there's some jurisdictional issues there where a lot of Department of Labor or other agencies other than health regulate the slide itself, whereas health departments regulate the water and the splashdown or plunge pools. So there's a kind of a line in there as who covers what. And so we want to try to use this scope issue to make sure that we're not doing scope creep and starting to interfere or interject ourselves into other standards and jurisdictions. Now, on the principles and style guide, the principles basically for the MAC is it's guidance on how state and local health departments can transform their pool programs into a data-driven, knowledge-based risk reduction effort to prevent disease and injuries. Another principle is it's evolution, not revolution, and this is something to be mindful when you're submitting a change request. We're looking at incremental improvements to allow regulatory and industry partners to adapt to the MAC guidelines. And I mean, there's a number of items where we may know where we want to go, but it could be such a severe impact on either the regulators, the operators, the designers, that if we went one step from where we are to where we want to be, it could be very negative impact and have a negative impact on the industry. So we want to be cognizant of that aspect and see if there's incremental changes that get us to that point instead of all at one fell swoop. It doesn't necessarily apply to all, but just be mindful of that as you're thinking about some changes. Style, this is where we've had a lot of issues in past sessions where the MAC by design was built to keep different enforceable elements separate under different section numbers instead of lumping them all in. So we've had change requests in the past that didn't change the content, but they're consolidating several items into one section for brevity purposes. We don't want that. When you're going into data analysis, if you've got 3 or 4 separate types of items that are separate and distinct under one section, it makes it very hard to analyze that data. So having each one freestanding as a separate section allows for better data analysis and enforceability. And next piece on style is the code language must be enforceable. It is a regulatory guide, so it's directive and imperative. It's not may or should. It's a code language, and it's must or shall. So the change request form itself can be accessed on the CMAQ website under Tools and Forms. And again, I've included the links here so that you can hopefully easily access them when you go follow these instructions. When you're on Tools and Forms page, you can just click on Submit CMAQ Change Request, and that'll bring up where you have the opportunity to enter change request. Click on that, and it'll bring the change request form up. And what you'll see is this is the top part of the form, and there's some detailed instructions on how to complete the form, and I encourage you to read through that thoroughly. It's a section, item by item part of the form on what to do. Following, this is the rest of the guidance on completing that form. And so refer to and follow those instructions for completion submission of it. As I said, one MAC section per change request. An important point is click there's Save Draft Copy to save as a working copy. As you're starting to fill the form out and you're not complete with your thoughts and your content, if you just click Close, you'll lose everything. It doesn't save it as soon as you exit out of there. So if you click on Save Draft Copy, that saves it as a working copy. But also remember that it's not officially submitted for consideration nor available for review by others until you click on the Submit button when the CR is complete. A CR number is automatically assigned when you do that, and you'll get an automated response set acknowledging receipt. And also, how do you get back and touch and access your form, once you've saved it, you have the ability to go back in and edit and or complete it. So to access your saved or submitted CR forms, it's important for members to log into the CMAQ website, and you'll click on Triennial Conference. Again, the links here, and there's a sub-menu that says it says Enter Change Request. Once you click on that, if you're logged in as a member, all your CRs will be displayed that you've submitted or saved in a table, and then you can just click on them and begin to edit. If you're not a member, you still go click on the Triennial Conference and enter change requests, but what you'll have is a key that was issued when you submitted or saved your CR, and you'll enter that key code in there, and that'll then bring up your CRs to be displayed that you can continue working on them. Here's what the form actually looks like. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but at the top you'll see Save Draft Copy. This is when you're working on it, want to save it. Once you're ready to submit for formal consideration, here's the Submit button, and here's the Close button that you should not do unless you've actually saved first or submitted first, then close. You have the ability to print and attach documents, which I'll show you later on. Now, with this form also, you'll see this top part of the form. If you're a member and you're logged in, this will be pre-populated with your information that comes out of our member database, so it saves you a bit of time for completing the form. Again, refer to and follow the instructions for completing a change request. When you're actually entering the content of what you want, there's a text editor that'll appear in the box, and I'll show you where that is, and it provides for underlining the new information or strike-throughs for the old information. So you need to underline for new and strike through text to be deleted on what you want deleted. Again, in the past, we've received change requests that don't have clear, does not follow these rules on underlining strike throughs, and it just delays the process. We have to follow back up with you and get the change request in proper form. So you'll see here, this is what the bottom part of the form, the middle part is. You'll notice here under the section number, first part is you're specifying what it is you want to change. Is it code language, it is annex language, or is it both? And you click what's appropriate. Now, the section number here, if you know it's going to be, say, section 4.7, you type that in here, and what it does is here down in section 4 is where you're going to propose your new or revised text. Once you've included it up here, it pre-populates it. It pulls in that code language, the MAHC language down here in this section, and then the text editor will pop up, and you can use that for strike through or adding the new language and underlining it. So it's also important to provide the justification on why the change is necessary to improve the MAHC, and a clear explanation that demonstrates why the current provisions are inadequate or absent, and how your CR will improve the MAHC. It's not just, I don't like it, we need to change it. That's not how we always did it. It's we're looking for justification. Another part of the form, which is new for 2020, is estimated costs. So we want costs listed to the regulated parties and or the manufacturers to implement your proposed change, and then indicate the information and the methodology for cost estimates. Again, in the lessons learned from past, there was some change requests submitted during the past cycle that indicated there was not any substantial cost, and went through the process, and then way towards the end of the process, it came to light that it could be extremely expensive to implement it. It's not to say that a high cost would result in not passing, but it's only appropriate those are voting on and being impacted know what the cost is of the proposed change. And again, the substantiation to support the proposed change, as the MAHC is said, we pride ourselves as being data-driven, and so we need your change request to be supported by the technical information, need published scientific studies or references, or unless it's editorial in nature where you're changing wordsmithing but doesn't change the content. You need to list all the references that you're using. And you'll see, here's the sections of the change request where you can explain the purpose, the estimated cost, and here's where you include the substantiate the request with your supporting information. And you'll notice that there's a provision to attach documents, so you don't have to try to include all your information in here. You can have a freestanding document that supports and provides the information, and you upload it and attach it along with the form, and then it's saved and preserved with your form and when we're publishing it and accessing it. Again, supporting information can be attached. If there's images that you want to demonstrate or show, they also can be uploaded and inserted in the change request documents. So when you're done completing the change request form, as I said before, you click on Submit when the form is complete. The next step in the process is CMAQ staff will review the submitted CRs for completeness and scope. So they go in, and like right now, we've got 84 change requests that have been submitted, but they aren't. You go on the website, and you won't see them because they haven't conducted the review of all those to check first, are they within the scope, and second, are they complete? Once I do that, I assign the technical support committee that may be relevant. We'll talk about that later. And also I change the status from submitted to in review. That way, once that's done, then they're visible on the website for all to see, and they'll be available for the technical review committee to start their work. We may have to contact the submitter when reviewing these, and there may need to address some issues before we can move forward with that. I did note one when I was reviewing them today that going to need some more detail, just indicated that the MAHC should include this, this, and this, but there's no proposed code language for that. So the submitter's going to have to go back. I'm going to have to communicate. They're going to have to go back and actually add the text that they want to include in there, just not a broad statement that it needs to include thus and thus. And as I said, once they'll be approved for posting, once any issues are addressed, and here's where they'll be available for viewing on our CMAQ website. Excuse me. Part of the process also is CMAQ members can comment during processing of the change requests. You do have to be a CMAQ member in order to submit a member comment for a specific CR. And member comment form is accessible at the bottom of posted CR. Once you bring that form up and you're reviewing a change request, at the bottom there'll be a spot to add a member comment, and it'll bring up the member comment form. You have to be logged in because it's going to, if you're not logged in, it's not going to recognize you as a member, and you're going to click on it, but it's going to not allow you to complete a form. And then those member comment forms are automatically posted for viewing, and they're linked to a specific change request. And a note on the comment forms, the intent isn't to just say, yeah, I agree or I disagree. It's to inform decision making. First, from a TRC standpoint, as there are different information, either pro or con, that hasn't been included that you think is important to be considered, whether here's a negative part that you really need to think about this, or here's something positive that it's going to do that hasn't been identified in the submittal, so they get a complete picture of that. So that's the nature of what the comment forms is intended to be used for. And there are 3 member comment periods, and this has changed from last year. So the first comment period is what I had just indicated. It's when the change request is under review by the technical review committee and potential editing. It's still under review, being analyzed. So you can submit a member comment, and it can influence what the change request is going to look like. There could be editing. The TRC could work with the submitter and, if appropriate, make changes based on some additional information provided through this comment period. The second comment period is after this change request has been finalized, the TRC has completed its review, and it's been released and posted on the website, but it's before our vote on the code conference. And what this comment period is intended to do is to provide information that will also be included with the discussion about this change request at the conference. Again, it's to inform membership, inform decision making. And the third period is after the conference, and it's, again, an opportunity basically to influence voting. We've gone through the evaluation by TRCs. We've gone through the Vote on the Code conference, had member discussions. We still have another opportunity to provide information that people can look at before they cast their vote on it that may impact their vote. Okay. So the posted CRs, kind of rewinding a little bit, the posted CRs are routed to the Technical Review Committee for review. And the Technical Review Committee is approximately 11 members. It's made up of equal number of public health and aquatics industry, and then one or two academics are part of it typically. The only member right now that we have is the chair, Amanda Terrier from New York State Department of Health. For those that were involved in the past, Amanda was the vice chair in the past cycle. The vice chair becomes the chair, and then we select a whole new staffing of the committee. We did ask for applications for membership, and we did receive applications for this as well as the Technical Support Committee, but we still could use additional applications. So even though we said the cutoff, I think, was September 6th, if you're still interested, I'd encourage you to go to our website and submit an application for consideration of participation in either the Technical Review Committee or one of the 7 Technical Support Committees. Now, the Technical Review Committee role includes the review of the technical and scientific data and other references that are submitted to support the CR. They also, through their deliberations, they solicit input from one of the or more of the 7 technical support committees as needed. Again, the TSCs are identified by subject matter expertise or subject matter details. So they'd be made up of those folks that have subject matter expertise in these particular areas. And they're usually, we like to have about 3 members in a technical support committee, and they're the real experts on a given topic. And then because the technical review committee, they don't necessarily have the expertise in each and every area. It's an overview of the change request. Does it meet the criteria? Is it defensible? Does it have supporting information? But then we're looking at feedback or input on the actual technical merits of it, and understanding the technical merits. That's where the technical support committees are important to be able to provide additional information and guidance to the TRC as they're evaluating certain change requests. And as I said, like the Technical Review Committee, we're still in the process of selecting members for each of these 7 TSCs. So again, I'd encourage you to apply if you feel that you have the credentials for one or more of these committees, and we'd love to have additional applications to be looking at and choosing from. One new item for 2020 is a new positions. We're calling it the Industry CR Content Liaison, and we're going to appoint a member to each of the 7 categories that I have listed here, and their role is to review the change request in their area of expertise and interest, and be kind of their industry liaison to alert members in their area of interest to change requests that may need their member attention, and so they can participate in the conference calls and making member comments. And this came about particularly after this last conference. There's maybe 100 and some odd, 170 change requests this last cycle, and everything from glossary items to technical design items to lifeguarding to bather supervision to chemical safety and all that. And if you're a member, you may only be involved in one aspect. Maybe you're a chemical manufacturer. So it's kind of onerous, it has been, to sort through all 150, 170, however many change requests and identify ones that you're interested in. So after this last cycle, we had some discussions with members and thought it would be a good idea to have someone that's identified as, let's say, use the chemical industry, that is somehow engaged in that sector of the industry, has a good network of contacts and colleagues out there in that sector, and their role will be to review them, to identify the CRs that may affect their colleagues and constituents within their sector, and alert them so that they can be focusing on either listening in on the conference call when that's being discussed or making member comments. So we're going to be soliciting or looking for the liaisons. So again, if anybody out there feels that they would fit this role, I'd encourage you to send us a note. You can send it at cmac@cmac.org, indicating your interest in what sector you'd be involved in, so we could consider you as a content liaison. Now back to the TRC role. They schedule conference calls for CR reviews. So the idea is to have this a totally open process, so that deliberations by the TRC is done by conference calls where the public has the opportunity to listen in to the discussion. So the conference calls and call-in numbers will be posted. You won't be able to participate, and to speak, but you can listen. And based on the listening to the discussions, you can then submit comments in response or reaction to the discussions. So in the TRC also then they have to review the submitted member comments for particular CRs, and then they develop their technical reviews and recommendations. They have a form they fill out, and that's what's posted on the website. And that technical review will include support or input from the technical support committees, and it also has to include consideration of the member comments that came in. They have to do an assessment of the member comments. And those final reviews and recommendations are posted on the CMAC website for viewing. Now we move to the conference itself, the Vote on the Code Triennial Conference. And this is where the CRs are presented to the attendees of the conference, and we've also done live streaming. I'm not sure of the details for this 2021, but for those that can't attend in person, it may or may not be an option this year. But it's presented, it's an opportunity to provide detailed presentation on on the change request, the pros and cons, what the TRC deliberations were, what their thought process is, the data that they're, and the input from the TSCs, and reviewing the membership comments for attendee discussion. So the idea is to have good, clear understanding what a CR is all about, where it came from, what it's trying to do, so that when it comes time to vote, you're as informed as possible on moving forward with a change request. There's also opportunities for caucus groups to deliberate amongst themselves at the conference. We have usually 2 or 3 caucus sessions. Let's say that you have those that are interested in lifeguarding bather supervision. So you have a number of attendees at the conference. There's times scheduled throughout the 2 days where they can meet and discuss what some of the CRs were and come back with kind of a consensus from their group as what their position is, and they have an opportunity to present that position during the discussion period of what this industry sector thinks about these change requests. Also new for 2020 is the CR submitter can edit a CR based on conference attendee feedback. So there could be, typically there's very good discussions during the conference about a change request, and it can enlighten the submitter. There may be information they hadn't thought about. So there's an opportunity to edit their CR after the conference. Those edits have to be reviewed by the technical review committee because it may affect their vote recommendations. And those edited change requests and the TRC vote recommendations will be posted within 3 weeks following the end of the conference. Next is the voting phase, and only CMAC members can vote. Again, this is important. If you're interested in potential impact on your business, your operations, on the MAC and the change request, your opportunity to have a say is to be a member and vote. And that voting opens 3 weeks after the end of the conference. It was, I think, 1 week in the past or 2 weeks, but to allow time for this new process of editing CRs as needed, we bumped it out to 3 weeks. It is an electronic-only voting process available through the CMAC website, and it continues for 1 month after it opens. Now, the member voting itself, it's split by sector. You got public health, regulatory, and aquatics. And right from the beginning, we have a weighted vote that public health accounts for 50% of the vote, and aquatics the other 50%. We have a voting scenario, and how that works is posted on our website, and you can go to this link to see. One change from last time was it used to be you just needed to be more than 50% for a yes vote to pass. That's been changed to 60%. We had a few controversial items that actually passed, but they're in the 50 to 60% range of yes. So we bumped it up to 60% to make sure that we have a clear indication of what the membership's decision is on a yes vote. So here's what our weighting, again, public health is federal, state, local public environmental health staff. It's the pool regulatory programs. The aquatic sector is pretty much all the rest of the aquatics, whether it be designers, the management staff, suppliers, academia, that's the aquatic sector. So once the voting, it's all done electronically, like I said, and once the voting results are completed, it's reviewed by the CMAQ Board of Directors, and we prepare a submission to the CDC for final consideration for their acceptance. The CDC has the right to not accept voting results, meaning something that may have passed, maybe yes, but if there's could be significant problems with that, CDC has the right to reject the particular vote. They do not like to do that. They prefer to take whatever membership is voted on as the way it should be. So we need to make sure that that's part of why the scrutiny and our details as we go through the change request on developing the change request, the reviewing of the change request, to make sure it's as vetted as well as possible before it's voted on, so that whatever we submit as a membership to CDC should be able to withstand scrutiny there, and it's in the best interest of aquatics. And then following CDC's review and final consideration, then the fourth edition of the MAHC will be posted sometime during the summer season. It's usually July, August of 2021 for this next edition. Now, just kind of a review of some key dates for the process. September, we officially opened the change request on September 2nd, as we're still recruiting TRC, TSC members, and the CRs being pre-screened and reviewed for completeness, scope, and style. Now, January is when the CR submission period ends, January 6th specifically. And by that time, all the CRs should be pre-screened and passed on to the technical review committee for their review by January 20th. At that point, the TRC chair and vice chair, they have to review what they have. We've got 84 right now. Whether how many more we get in, whether we have 200, 300, or what have you, they have to look at it from a workload standpoint and make assignments, and also how many may need input from technical support committees, make those assignments, and then start, based on the workload and assignments, start to develop the conference call schedules, which will be posted on the CMAQ website. February is when TRCs start their actual CR member comment review process. May is another deadline date, as that's when that first member comment period ends on May 31st. Again, that's the first period where you're going to influence the TRC review and assessment of a CR. June 30th is when the TRC submits their final reviews and recommendations to CMAQ. July, those final CRs and TRC reviews are posted on the CMAQ website, and that's when the second member comment period opens. And these again are the comments intended to influence member discussion at the Vote on the Code conference. And at that time, too, we'll be starting to develop the preliminary agenda for the conference to be posted on the CMAQ website. October is the deadline for that second CR comment period, because they're going to be included on the slides and the presentations. The actual Vote on the Code conference is mid-October. I think it's 13th and 14th. I'm not, somewhere in that range for 2020. And again, we say that CRs can be edited based on conference discussions. We've got the third member comment period open to influence the vote, and the TRC reviews of any edited change requests, and then the voting for the CRs opens 3 weeks after the conference for 1 month. So that brings us to November, where the voting closes. It'll be that Sunday, the 1 month following it opening at midnight Eastern Standard Time. By January, we CMAC delivers the recommended changes to the MAC and the rationale, the CDC will have had time to evaluate the voting results and prepare a presentation to the CDC of the results. And the voting results, once we send them to CDC, the voting results will also be posted on the CMAC website. And that brings us up to summer 2021 when CDC will launch the 4th edition of the MAC. So that is kind of an overview of the process, and hopefully you can see there's multiple points of participation in the process, whether it be member of one of the committees, member comment periods, voting, what have you. There's a number of opportunities, different opportunities to participate in the process. Here's my contact information, and I believe I'm going to, at this point, get out of full screen mode, which I thought I was doing. Okay, and then I think Daisy is the opportunity for questions and further discussion at this point.
Yes, thank you so much, Doug. This is very informative. So we do have a few questions here in the Q&A box. So just want to encourage everyone, you're welcome to submit your questions here through the chat and also through the Q&A box. So I think the first question for you, Doug, are all of the change requests going to be brought to the floor for discussion?
That's a good question. In the past, we were focusing on the ones that were kind of significance, not the ones that are editorial in nature, just because there's so many, but we heard from the membership, they really, they wanted to be the ones to decide what's important and what isn't important. So to the extent possible, based on timing logistics, the intent would be to, yes, try to bring them all to the floor for discussion to the extent possible.
Great, thank you so much, Doug. So the next question we believe related to the CMAC. Does the CMAC have ethics and best practice policy or officer?
Does it have ethics for? I didn't quite catch that.
So I think they are asking regarding the CMAC if you guys have any best practice policies to offer, or I think let's start with that.
Best practices as it would relate to what, I guess. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, maybe we'll ask for a little clarification here on this question. In the meantime, Doug, we'll just move on to the next question. How do you get on the mailing list for the liaisons?
That, because it's not an application, I think at this point, if you could send us an email to our cmac@cmac.org, and just indicate that you would like to be considered as a liaison, and we'll collect that information. Give us our include your contact information, what area of expertise or subject matter you're interested in, and send us an email. You can send it, like I said, to cmac@cmac.org. You can also copy me at my address here that shows on the contact information page.
Great, thank you so much, Doug. The next question is asking, what is the typical timeline for adoption of any new items submitted for consideration?
Well, there's two parts of that, I guess. So the adoption from a change request as it goes into the MAC itself, that's the process I just outlined. So we could start now, we're reviewing it, it'll go to the Vote on the Code conference next October. It comes out in the summer of 2021 as the 4th edition. But the next piece is adoption is actually being implemented. A local health jurisdiction actually has to adopt all or part of the MAC or that section in order for it to be implemented. So it's really the actual, it's there as guidance document, as a reference from a MAC standpoint, but until a local jurisdiction adopts the MAC, or whether it be a portion, a few sections, or the complete MAC, it needs to go through that local process in order to be enforceable. And that, for those that are on the call that are regulators, know that can be quite an extensive process. Sometimes it takes years, usually a 1 to 2 year if it's fast track from a local code. If somebody wants to adopt a local health code, at a minimum of 1 to 2 years before it goes through their process. So to actually be enforceable, it's even if it passes, it's going to be takes a bit of time.
Great, thank you, Doug. So we're waiting here for additional questions and for some clarifications. In the meantime, I think I'm going to ask a question myself. I know you talk about the technical review committee and the roles of that committee. What would be the time commitment if someone is interested in joining and being a part of that committee?
Oh, that's a very good question, too. All the work, I shouldn't say all the work, they operate by conference calls, and they're usually, hour and a half long conference calls. And once they start, they'll have to determine their schedule, and that's going to be based on the numbers they have to deal with. It's weekly, every 2 weeks. It's not multiple times a week. It'll be hour and a half, once a week, once every couple of weeks. Depends on the workload on that. And then there may be each individual member, typically, that they may be, let's say there's 100 CRs that they have to evaluate, and there's 11 members, so let's say 10 CRs per member. They're usually delegated to the TRC members based on their knowledge and area of expertise for initial vetting and to lead the discussion of the full TRC. So there may be some offline work on evaluating, writing up, drafting the TRC evaluation form. And that'll be like January through June is when their work is typically, and then until we jump forward, and then it's usually just the chair and vice chair that the expectation they intend to attend this vote on the code conference. But I mean, we welcome any of the other TRC members. We just have financially support the chair and vice chair to be part and deliver the presentations at the conference.
Quite a follow-up question on that, Doug. So who can apply to the technical review committee or, the technical support committee? And also, is there any support you can provide to the committee members for attending the conference, or they're still responsible for that on their own?
Okay. To apply, there's an application form for both the Technical Review Committee and Technical Support Committee on our website, and that'll lead you through. To be a member of the committee, you have to be a CMAQ member. But what we've done, there's some folks that have submitted applications that are currently not members, but if they are selected, they will become members. So we're not excluding an application if you're currently not a member, but if you are selected, you have to become a member before you can actually be seated on the committee. And as far as the financial support, right now we don't have to. We'll have to wait till we get a bit closer. We've in the past we've supported the chair and the vice chair, but to come to the conference, we'll just have to. I can't give a definitive answer right now what our finances may look like a year from now with the conference coming up. We'd like to be able to support those that have participated in the process from a committee, but it's too early to commit to anything.
Great. Thank you so much, Doug, for clarifying that. Another question here, following up on the technical committee. Could you provide the name and contact details of those who are interested in the technical committee in the area concerning water slides? Should someone just email you to get that information, Doug?
Yeah, I'm not sure as for people interested in the technical committee concerning water slides. I mean, if somebody wants to follow up on that with us, because I'm not exactly sure if they're asking to be part of it or input. I think I see the question. I know that's somebody that's engaged in the water slides, ASTM standards, and all that. So I'd be glad to talk. Send me an email. We can see what direction you really want to go. If you want to be a member, or a TSC member, or other, we can get that resolved.
Perfect. That sounds great. So please make sure I hope to follow up with Doug on that one, and he can put you in touch with those on that committee. So with that, Doug, I think we're finalizing here with all the questions. I give another minute to see if anything comes in, but I think those are all our questions. Doug, do you have anything to add before I do some quick announcements and close out today's webinar?
Just that I'd really encourage folks to be engaged in the process and certainly become a member, because again, it's members that ultimately vote that determine what goes into the MAHC, but it also provides, there's a wealth of knowledge out there, frontline folks out there, and we need you engaged in the process because our motto is driven by your expertise, and we truly believe that. So we need the engagement of folks, and we need the membership to keep this going strong, keep the MAHC very technically sound document that's a reference and a resource for all to help improve health and safety of aquatics.
Great, Doug. We have one more. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think the one more question about once we get the liaisons, how do you get on their email list? Is that the question?
Yes. Correct.
Okay. That's this is going to be a new process, but what we're hoping is the liaisons will have their own network, because we're not creating the network for them. They will be, because of their knowledge and they're working within that sector, know who to reach out to keep their members, their colleagues informed. So the other details, I'm not sure if there's more to that, but we'll flesh that out more on what the expectations, how they go about it. But it's, they'll be brought into part of our system, be part of the TRC, so they'll know when the scheduled calls and all that, and then they'll have to come up with their own process for disseminating that information to their colleagues that they're essentially representing on there to keep them informed.
Thank you so much, Doug. I'm going to remind everyone that your contact information is right here on the screen. You're free to contact Doug with any other follow-up questions. With that, I'm going to just share a few announcements here just to recap. I do want to say that today's webinar is being recorded and it will be distributed to all those who registered. The recording will also be available at our website, which is here, our third bullet. You can access our website. Also, if you want to contact us and learn more about the Model Aquatic Health Code Network or get in our email listserv, please feel free to send us an email, and our contact information is here. Two quick announcements. As a reminder, the World Aquatic Health Conference is next week, October 16 to the 18th in Williamsburg, Virginia. The link is here if you want to learn more and register. And also, as we said at the beginning, if you would like to participate and give your feedback on the MAHC app, please do. There's the contact information here. I will be happy to hear from you, and with your feedback, we'll be able to make improvements to the app. So with that, I just want to say a big thank you for our panelists, and please join us in our next webinar. We look forward to seeing you there. Have a great day.
Daisy, this is Doug. Could I just interject one thing?
Yes, please do, Doug.
Yeah, that the announcement about the World Aquatic Health Conference coming up next week is important. We do have a complete one-day session on Thursday of different, we call it Math Track at the WAC. So there's a whole day of different sessions dedicated to different aspects of the MAC. So again, I'd encourage folks to attend if they can. Look forward to seeing you there.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Doug. And yes, we hope you can attend the conference and stay in touch with us via email until we see you in our next webinar. Have a great day.